Hey, welcome everyone to Beyond the Booth, the weekly high school football magazine for the tri-state area. Of course, it's Randall along with Phil Harris. What's going on today, Phil?
Oh, just taking it easy on a Monday. Back to work tomorrow. So just getting ready for another week of high school and college football. Once again, it comes around quick.
Boy, it does. When you realize that Tennessee starts playoffs this week, and Tennessee and most of the SEC are just finished up with week 8. Football season's almost gone.
Yeah, really, 3/4 of the college season's over with. And then, of course, like in Alabama, we got one more week and playoff starts. It just, once it gets started, it just seems that, there's all that anticipation, but it just flies by. And I remember it was this way when you played football. It was the same thing. It seemed like it took forever for the season to get started. But once it started, it was just like pow. And
Yeah.
It was over with.
Yeah, and it would be 102 at practice, and then you would be wearing hoodies underneath your jersey next week. It's how fast it went.
Yeah, I think, we've had some great weather this year, though. This week will probably be the first week where cooler weather is going to affect games, because it kind of changes the climate. Everybody's been able to play in comfortable atmospheres, very little rain. So it's been very nice, but that's going to change. I think that's going to have an effect on games throughout the rest of the year.
Well, and we do out. I think so too. We've got some big games in the area. Some stuff we'll talk about real soon. We've got Coach Chad Barger from East Ridge, and Phil, I think he's one of the best stories in the area. 0-5 to start, and came within a breath of finishing 5-0.
Yeah, at the end of the season. Yeah, and of course, that's what you want. That's what you play for, is to play your best football at the end of the year. This is one of those, he's probably had a ball because the first part of the year things weren't going well. But now that things have turned, this is where you do not want a season to end, because when you look across there and your kids are having fun, you don't want that to end.
Absolutely. And I think that's a lot of the struggle. That's what I look forward to talking to Coach about, is what this struggle's been like to get here. I was with him in week 2, and I could sense his frustration that he knew he had a better football team. But again, he starts his season, kind of like we talk about a lot of people has. He starts with Meggs and Sequatchie and all playoff teams,
Yeah, because his first 5 games were tough. It don't matter how he playing well or whatever. That his gauntlet was the first 5 games of the season. Be nice if that could have been spread out a little bit more. But those kids learned from that. They got better, and they stuck with it, and they showed up every Monday for practice. They bought in on what he was selling, and finally things fell their way. Yeah, it comes with hard work and trusting the process.
Yes.
So evidently the coaching staff did a good job of selling those kids on the future. So it's worked out well for them.
Well, I look forward to talking to Coach around the 7 o'clock air Central Time, 8 o'clock Eastern. We'll bring Coach Barger on. But let's get through some stuff. One more week till Georgia playoffs. But I do want to run through a few Georgia scores of interest. One, Cedartown, 49-0 over Southwest Whitfield. Central of Carrollton, 42 over Northwest Whitfield, 20. And then the next game I bet was a barn burner. Chattanooga 16, Coosa 10. Phil, they had to get after each other.
Oh yeah, they're Chattanooga has a lot of rivalries around them there, and that that was a big game. 2 teams that needed a win real bad, and Chattanooga finally come out on top of one, because last year Chattanooga has been very competitive.
Yes. Dade County over Pepperell, 26-15. Dade County, again, Phil, just, almost in a weird – I feel like that's a weird situation for a football team. Nobody to the south, nobody to the east. and then they travel all over and play to get that big victory over a normally good Pepperell team. It's got to feel good for Dade County.
Yeah, well, I ran the coach, Heath Vincent, who's been a coach at Fort Payne, been head coach at Valley Head, but he's now an assistant coach at Trine, and we run into each other the other day, and he was talking about Trenton, about Dade County, about, their record is nowhere near indicative of how good football team that is, and Trine played Dade County, and he told me that Dade County probably was the best team Trine played all year.
I think Dade County is somebody you don't want to see this time of the year.
Yeah, definitely. So, of course, this game was before Trine played Darlington.
Right.
But up until this point, that was their, I said, well, Coach, I've kind of kept up with Dade County, and I said, the teams they have played and the teams they have beaten, I said, losing to Marion County 10-6, and they're the number one ranked team in Class 2A. So this team's schedule has been very difficult. And if you look at their record, you're going to be misled going to that game.
Absolutely. I think so. And I, I'm glad to see Dade County get some wins, have success with that football team. Rockmont over Fannin County, Model over Gordon Central, 34-0. Field one, and we just want to talk about a minute. Ridgeland still in search of that first victory. Gordon Lee over Ridgeland, 20-9.
Yeah, Gordon Lee, they seem to win those close ball games. They've done it all year long. Naturally, Ridgeland is a very talented football team. They just haven't been able to put it together on the field and that be a positive in the win column. But Gordon Lee has gotten better and better and better. It's a young football team. But they have really played well all year long. And, and the one game, they've had to squeak by a lot of them, but they've won a lot of the games they were expected to win.
Yes, absolutely. I don't know if I had expectations from Gordon Lee going into the year, but I think they've out succeeded what I thought they would be, if that makes sense.
Well, I think it's one of those teams where it's a youthful team, and they could have finished 3-7 very easily.
Right.
Somewhere in that neighborhood. But they were able to, and I think this goes with tradition in the past that, they've been a successful program, and they played a difficult schedule. When you play teams like Trine, you get something out of that.
Absolutely.
So they've just continued the process and got better and better. And when they've gotten against teams that are competitive on their level, they've been able to find a way. Because it's a good football team. They're just a young football team, and they're well coached.
Absolutely. I love that program. All Navy, baby. It's definitely a tradition where they play great baseball at Gordon Lee. And I think the football program's trying to catch up to that.
Yeah, well, they've got the facilities and all those things for it. But I think what the coach, one of the things I heard from one of the parents that the coach is trying to do at Gordon Lee is kind of trying to do like what Trine does. You get those kids in your Pee Wee program, and get it started, and it goes from there. That's why Trine is so successful. Their Pee Wee program has been built from the bottom up, and it keeps those kids maybe that comes from around the area and comes there and plays. They keep going to Trine. And that nets wins when they get to the varsity level. And I think Gordon Lee's trying to get that going to help them where they're more consistent on the field.
Right, and a lot of community support too. So, program I definitely think is on the rise. Knock out a couple other scores here. Mary County goes down to Harrelson, 55-24. Heritage gets a big win over Sonoraville, 22-19. And Phil, Cola Creek, 48, Lafayette, 9. I'm not sure this ain't the best win total I've ever seen at Cola Creek.
Yeah, well, I think they really struggled the first part of the year. I think they're one of those things that kind of come on at the end of the year. Traditionally, it's a newer school. You don't have the alumni. You don't have the kids of dads that went to school there. So it's a slow process to build that program. But, from the first of the year to the end of the year, this team's come a long way.
They've
been competitive in games where they wasn't supposed to be mid part of the season, and and they're starting to pay off for them now.
Tryon over Armucci 55-7, and as I call it, the battle of 2A, Phil. Ringo over LFO 34-17.
Yeah, it's just a struggle for LFO right now. They have had a tough season. They've been competitive in some games, but of course Ringo needing a win, and they got one there. But it's been a struggle really for both teams this year.
Phil, I'm going to blaze through the Tennessee scores real fast. Might even not start. I probably won't stop for comment because I want to spend some time while we have it on the playoff bracket. So unless something really hits me, I'll just blow through these really fast. And we'll start with Baylor over Knox Catholic 42-0. Bledsoe County in a big victory 28-0 over Unaka. Boyd Buchanan stays unbeaten 48-20. Bradley Central last Thursday night 46-14 over Bearden. Brainerd playoff qualified over Sweetwater 22-14. Chattanooga Central 62, McMinn Central 55. I would like to see that one. That sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, I seen a little thing online about that. I bet that was a great football.
Yeah, just knowing the athletes on both teams, I bet it was. Chattanooga Christian 56, Notre Dame 28. Chattanooga Prep makes the playoffs with a 46-0 victory over Lafayette, or Lookout Valley, excuse me. Cherokee County over Unaka County. Cleveland over Hardin Valley. And let's get on down here and stay in the Chattanooga area. Grundy County, 65-16 over Pickett County. Grundy makes the playoffs, Phil, and that's got to feel good for the kids at Grundy.
Yeah, definitely so. They when we saw them in the Jamboree, they didn't look like a bad football team. So it's paid off. They've worked hard and getting into the playoffs. That's a big, monumental thing for that Grundy County football team, just to get to play another game.
Yeah, absolutely. The game we'll talk about a little later with Coach Barger. Hickson 17-14 over East Ridge, and that involved a fumble late, driving, and a turnover. So it sounds like a great football game. Marion County finishes the season undefeated, 42-9, but somehow, Phil, they go back to number 2 in 2A, but still undefeated, 42-9. Mex County stays undefeated with a 13-6 over Tyner. Tyner's another team we'll talk about in just a minute. And Tyner, Phil, has gotten better. And Tyner, I look at their schedule, they've not ran from anybody.
No, definitely not. And they played very good football teams at the very first part of the year. But you knew it was going to come around for them because of the tradition. And you knew they lost a lot last year. But, they're just replaced people. And it's taken them a little while to get a foothold. But it sounds like they're playing good at the right time. And they're one of those teams I don't think you want to see in the playoffs. It's not going to be a given when you play them now.
Well, I'm going to see them Saturday I'm going to see them Friday night, a little preview of what's coming in our playoff bracket. Farther down then, let's look at Ottawa over Howard. Ottawa gets that big emotional win, do not qualify for the playoffs, but 21-6 over Howard. Red Bank closes out with a 14-0 victory over Loudon. Ray County sneaks into the playoffs 29-28 over East Hamilton. Sale Creek beats Copper Basin 55-12. And Saudi Daisy gets the win over Signal Mountain 18-17. And I do believe they would go for 2 to get that win, Phil. I don't know if you've seen that. But Saudi Daisy over Signal Mountain. And that's 2 teams that struggled, but traditional rivals since Signal Mountain has opened up the school.
Yeah, definitely so. Because I mean, they're basically right on top of each other. So that was a huge win for Soddy-Daisy. And Signal Mountain, it's been a struggle for them this year. They played close in a lot of games. Of course, Soddy-Daisy, they're much like Ray County, come up with a win to end the year. But that surprised me that Ray County was able to win that game over East Hamilton, because nothing has gone right for Ray County.
No, absolutely, and playoff qualified. And we'll talk about their matchup here in just a second. In the region, 1A region, the Chattanooga 1A region, last Thursday night, it was South Pittsburgh over Whitwell, 42-0. And Whitwell continues to South Pittsburgh continues to plow everybody. And in a big game, Walker Valley gets the W over McMinn County, 17-14. Phil, a great week and a lot of traditionally rivals. I think that game of the week might have been over there at Hickson. Hickson and Eastridge, everybody that was at it said it was a even matched great game.
Yeah, I bet so. It's one of them you'd like to have went and got to see. One of those where mistakes are crucial in a game like that. And that's one of those games where you don't really win the game, somebody loses the game.
Absolutely.
Because a mistake is the difference in a game like that.
All right. Well, Phil, I'm going to slow down a little bit, and we'll get to Alabama before we bring Coach Barger on. The next 15 or 20 minutes, I'd like to go over these Chattanooga area schools and all the bracket. If you have a school that you're interested in, we don't talk about, just go to River City Media. All the brackets for Tennessee is posted there, but I tried to stay focused on local schools and who's playing who. And Phil, let's start in 1A, where 10-0, number one in the state, South Pittsburgh, meets 1-9, Joe Barnes. I hate to almost say this, but when you get into the playoffs and you only win one district game and your first matchup is against number one South Pittsburgh, I don't know if that you actually won anything, Phil.
Yeah, I think that's where the playoff system's kind of messed up. I know down here we had a year where there was back before we had regions, we had areas. And one year in our 1A local area, there was only two teams in an area. Galesville was the runner-up, and they finished 0-10 and had to travel to Cortland in the first round of the playoffs.
I remember this.
Back in the day when Cortland was so good. And really and truly, Galesville just asked the athletics, I said, can we just not play the game? Because, this is not fair, but they made them go play it. But, yeah, 1-9, it's exciting for the kids to get to play in that type of atmosphere. But that just goes to show you sometimes with the playoff system, it's kind of messed up a little bit.
And all the other matchups are really good, I think competitive. And sometimes in 1A, you get that.
Yeah.
You get that matchup, and here it is. Sail Creek, the 3 seed over there, gets Clay County, who is also 6-4, and that's a 2 versus 3, Phil. So that's kind of a coin flip there.
Yeah, I think so. But you got to give Sail Creek a golden opportunity to go on the road and get one. Because you feel like they're going to be competitive, and they've got a shot, even though they're a 3 seed against a 2 seed. They've got a shot in that game.
Well, if you were matching those two 1A regions up, I definitely think the South Pittsburgh-Chattanooga one would be much better. Now, there's a team at the bottom we'll talk about in a minute who I think Gordonsville won that region at 6-4. But I think if you talk to the South Pittsburgh people, possible third-round matchup with Gordonsville is a real deal. And Gordonsville is not one of those teams. They're good and they're 1A, but they're not afraid to play out of their region.
Yeah, well, they'll probably played a lot bigger teams.
Right.
A lot bigger schools around there. You'll probably have some traditional teams that are bigger than they are, but they're going to continue to play them. And I would too. Because it just makes your football team better.
The 2 seed Whitwell gets a Red Bowling Springs team in that seems to always qualify. But I wouldn't be shocked to see, I expect Whitwell to win this football game.
Yeah, of course, Whitwell's had a great year. Getting to play at home is probably huge in the first round for them. I think that's the big thing in that one, because it's probably going to be a very evenly matched game. But I think home field could make the difference, especially if it's going to be a little bit cooler night than normal.
Yes. Chattanooga Prep, who finishes 4th, will travel to that Gordonsville team. And, Chattanooga Prep, I think only their second year of fielding a high school team, did win the Chattanooga area junior high championship, middle school championship. But it's just good experience. 2 years in, you're in the playoffs. Now, granted, you got to go to Gordonsville, but you're in the playoffs.
Yeah, well, it's a building block, and the coaches, I'm sure, just glad to get to go play one more round, because you get in the playoffs and kids start getting a little bit interested. Hey, you could be the difference us getting to the second round. You could be the difference us being the runner-up in the region next year.
Right.
So, it builds some interest, and it gives something for the coaching staff to sell to the kids. And it's also for your returning kids, guys, hey, we got to the playoffs. We want to do more next year. So that gives them a place to start building goals. And that's what's good about making the playoffs, especially with a young football program.
Phil, to jump up to 2A, the opposite region of this region is a region that's got just a whole host of teams that went 8-2, 7-2, or 7-3, and 5-5. And of course, over there, you're going to, in this area, you're going to have Marion going 10-0. And of course, Bledsoe goes 8-2. Then it drops off from there. Of course, Bledsoe beat Oneida to get that second seed. I fear those kind of matchups, because for Marion, they are, of course, undefeated, number 2 in the state. But when you see 3 or 4 teams that are all kind of grouped together, you don't actually know how good those teams could be.
No, because you don't know who they played, and that has a lot to do. We've got regions down here, like the one Sylvania plays in, and there's one in 1A in the western part of the state. They play within their region are great teams, and then when they play outside the region, they play real good teams. Right. So they might be 5-5, 6-4, and 7-3, but they're probably equal to an 8-2 or 9-1 in other parts of the state. So you don't know what you're going to get. Because down here, we know who the tough regions are. And it's the same way in Tennessee. You have certain regions that are weak, certain regions that are strong. Just like if you match up with a region, you're a region champion. One side that may be a weaker region will struggle with number 4 in another region that's very competitive top to bottom.
Well, a good example of that is Polk County, number 4 in this region, plays 8-2 at 8-2 Hampton. Bledsoe, who's number 2 in this region, plays 8-2 South Green. So just 3 teams, 8-2, and of course Marion 10-0, the winner of the region, plays 4th seed Westmoreland. And I just think that region, while all the attention goes to like Marion at the top of this region, followed by Bledsoe, when you see 3 teams 8-2, it just, I don't know, freaks me out. And I always think that those are 3 really good football teams.
Yeah, it's one of those where you think, well, we probably can count on Marion getting in, but the other 3 we just don't know.
Got war
because of the who they play up against. Because that's where I talk about where you have stronger regions and they're a lot more competitive, and maybe a 7-3 and 8-2 may be not an indication of really how good the team is.
Right, and I think the game of the week is 8-2 South Green at 8-2 Bledsoe County. That's going to be a well of a game.
Yeah, I bet you that one's going to be home field might make a difference there.
Absolutely.
It's good that that Meggs gets them at home. It would be tough to travel over there. But yeah, that could be the difference in this football game. But I'm sure it's going to go down to the wire.
This let's go to 3A, and of course the Chattanooga area 3A region. There's actually two of them, but I want to focus on the one I'm in, which is the Sequatchie region. 4th seed Grundy County goes to 10-0 Meigs County, and again Grundy 5-5, 500 record at Grundy County into the playoffs. You called that successful after the last full year, 20 years of struggling, going back to Ken Coalfield, the last time they were kind of this level.
Yeah, let's get in the playoffs. You never know what might happen because they're very familiar with their opponent. So you never know when you have your best day and they have their worst day. And, it could very well happen. You just never know. Weather's a factor. That's why you roll the house out there and go play, because you never know what's going to happen.
The 2-3 matchup in this region has potential to be a barn burner, Phil. I will be covering it. 93.3 Country Roads. If you want to hear it, 4-6 Tyner at 6-4 Sequatchie County. And Phil, I just feel like this is a game that, Sequatchie's at home, but you're playing a former state champion that just beat a 5A team. You better strap your helmets up and come to work.
Yes, definitely so, because Tyner's probably a lot better football team than they were at the first of the year. And it's one of those where you don't look at the record, you look at the program, because you're going to get their best. Because,
absolutely.
They're used to playing this time of year.
Yep. Well, I look forward to calling the game, and I talked to the Sequatchie County coaches and in private, and I think they feel like there's some things they can do, but Tyner's going to be Tyner. Tyner's going to be in a 5-man front. Tyner's going to tear you to take their athletes in space and beat them. And then on offense, they're going to put those athletes in space. Very similar to East Ridge in the level of athlete they have at Tyner.
Yeah, well, I think the biggest thing with Sequatchie County is eliminate giving up big plays.
Yeah.
That's probably going to be the whole key. Of course, they've been pretty solid on defense all year long, but limit big plays, and I think they'll be fine.
The 2 times we gave up big plays was a 40-point loss to Marion County and a 40-point loss to Giles County last week. And you're absolutely 100%. When we give up big plays at Sequatchie, we usually give them up into bunches, and we've got to keep this Tyner offense in a phone booth for the night. Watertown. Go ahead.
Yeah, because to me, Sequatchie County is not built for scoring quick. They're built for a 4-quarter game, not to play catch up.
Absolutely. Watertown, a good football team, 4-6, goes to McMinn Central 7-3. And this, if I was going to pick 1-3 seed that is kind of off the radar, that's got a chance to win, it might be this one, Phil.
Yeah, definitely so, because McMinn Central got beat pretty good last week.
Yes.
Because they lost. McMinn Central's got, they've had a good year, but traditionally not a very strong football program. So I think you're right. I think this is one of these that's probably going to be a dead even game.
Yes. And at the top of the region, Giles County, a good football team, Phil. They lost their first 2 games to larger classification schools, then run off 7 in a row, finished undefeated in the region. 7-2 Giles County, host 4-6 Brainerd. And I just look for Giles to move on through this.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. Of course, Brainerd's come up with 4 wins in kind of an up and down year. But, yeah, it's going to be a tall order for them on the road.
Yes, it is. Okay, jump up to 4A. Red Bank Lions, the number 1 seed, host DeKalb County from over in Middle Tennessee. A school that this opposite region of a lot of these Chattanooga area teams, Phil, it's really top heavy. We'll talk about Upperman here in a minute, but the DeKalb, Stone Memorials, the they're all just good football teams, but they all finished the year about 5-5. And it's going to, I'm feeling DeKalb is going to give Red Bank a tussle, as well as Stone Memorial and Hickson at 7-3.
Yeah, because, well, really, if you really look at it, I mean, this is not nothing against Red Bank or Hickson or anything. They're good football teams, but they're not on that great level.
Right.
So, especially like Red Bank teams that have been great in the past, they're good teams, but they're beatable. And so, when you get in these kind of matchups, you just got to survive and advance because you better play well or you're going down in the first round.
Right, exactly. And we'll get plenty of time with Coach Barger here in a minute. He draws a heck of an assignment. Top 3 ranked Upperman with former coach, Squatchy coach Adam Kame, 10-0, and 4-6 Eastridge travels over there. But again, that 4-6 football team you're getting, Phil, I'm not sure they're not the best team in Chattanooga right now. I know Hickson just beat them, but took a little luck at the end. Eastridge can be dangerous to this Upperman team. And Upperman wants to play wing tee football, fight you in a phone booth all night, where Eastridge is going to spread you out, put athletes in place. It's a good matchup of styles. Now, of course, I would never say Eastridge favored over Upperman. That's 4-6 versus 10-0. I just say Eastridge might have something athlete-wise that Upperman didn't see during the year.
Well, it's one of those games where it's going to be a matter of will. Which team can get the game at their tempo? If Eastridge can get the game at their tempo, force a couple of mistakes and get ahead early and make Upperman play catch-up, then they've got a shot. There is no doubt about it. But going over there, they're going to probably try to slow the game down and try to, force Eastridge into mistakes. And, of course, I think this game is key early of who gets out in front. I think that's probably going to be the most important thing in this football game.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we'll talk, a lot about, I think Coach Barger will tell you he will go as far as his offensive, defensive linemen carry him come Friday night. But let's jump up over to 5A and 6A. I have some of it down to, frankly, there's not many area 6A teams. I went ahead with the 5A teams. They're mostly local. But in 5A, that East Hamilton team travels to traditional power, good football team, Oak Ridge.
Oh, yeah, that's going to be very tough. Tough assignment for East Hamilton. But, that team is, it's in a fairly new school. And, of course, they're trying to build tradition. Them and Ottawa being on top of each other right now. East Hamilton has a little upper hand on Ottawa, but I'm sure East Hamilton's not at the level they want to be yet. But this is when you go roll the hats out there and see what happens.
Yes, and by Ray County beating East Hamilton, Ray County will end up drawing Lenoir City 6-4. Former district mates, Ray County 5-5, going to Lenoir City, and you just feel like Ray County fought to be here, even in the playoffs. There are times during the year, Phil, that I thought Ray County wasn't going to qualify for the playoffs.
Well, and this is a good thing. You never know when momentum's going to build for you. And a key win like that they got over East Hamilton gets those kids back on the positive frame of mind. And, and Lenoir City's beatable. If they go in and execute and play well, it's a beatable football team. It's not like they're playing Maryville or somewhere like that, or Alcoa or somebody like that. So, a lot of times if you hit the playoffs and momentum's going your way, you're a dangerous football team. And, Ray County gets in, momentum's going forward, and these kids get the extra week to play, so they have to be excited.
Absolutely. The other game in that region via Walker Valley's defeat of McMinn County week 11, week 10, McMinn ends up the 2 seed. They draw Clinton, and Walker Valley ends up the 1 seed, 8-2, drawing Campbell County. I think McMinn County and Walker Valley's got a good chance to advance here, Phil.
Yeah, definitely getting to play at home. You feel good about that. Yes, definitely. So that's turned out to be two pretty good football programs. Probably like we talk about, not elite teams, but good teams. But, naturally, both of them's going to have to play well, if they're going to advance. They can't get out there and slop one around and win.
I feel like in that 5A region, it's exactly what you say. Oak Ridge and Walker Valley is probably the top end of it. But even at the top end to the bottom, which would be, Campbell and East Hamilton, they're all kind of good teams, but everybody's got a defect, if that makes sense to you.
Oh, yeah. A couple of turnovers and 2 or 3 key penalties can even up a ball game real fast.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, over in 6A, I took the 2 Bradley County schools. Of course, Cleveland goes on the road, and it's to a place that it feels like Ray County went every year for about 2 decades. Cleveland goes to Jefferson County to open it up. Jeff County 9-1, Cleveland 6-4. I don't know if you've ever been there, Phil, but Jefferson County is truly one of the tough places to play in high school football.
Oh, always have been. I mean, traditionally very strong. I've never been there, but you read about them in the papers. Don't know a whole lot about them except you hear about them come playoff time, because somebody's got to go play them there.
Yeah.
And of course, Cleveland athletically is a good football team. It's going to be a tall order. They'll have to play at their best, because that's a tough place to go.
Yes. And the other team out of the region is, of course, Bradley County, or Bradley Central, who finishes 10-0. And they draw a new school from up in that area, Westridge, Phil. And I just feel like I've said it all year long. 2 schools that I really, really like their playoff chances in the public division is at the top and the bottom. I really like Bradley Central, and I really like South Pittsburgh. I think that's the Chattanooga's area's 2 best bets for a public school championship.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see how Bradley Central does, because all year long they've really been the favorites against everybody they've played, but they've gotten everybody's best. Well, now's when you really show what you have. You throw everything out there, and we're going to really find out how good Bradley Central is, because it's going to take, all that effort to win a state championship, but you are going to truly see now how good this football team really is. Because they're going to get going against teams that don't know them, other than they're very athletic. So it's going to be interesting to watch this Bradley Central football team if they stay focused, and I'm sure they are. It's been a tough year because, they get everybody's best. They have to come to play every night because nobody's going to give it to them.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you're talking 2 Tennessee commits and a Northwestern commit on the backside of that defense. But when you get to that 6A football, you're going to have schools that may have 2 or 3 commits like that other than yourself. There's a lot of talent at 6A football, and it's just the schools. You start talking 6A, you're talking 2,000 students enrollment in grades 9 through 12, Phil. It's just a huge difference than what we're used to. 500 kids in the entire high school, or 400 kids in the entire high school. It's a different level.
Oh, yeah. And the athletes are a different level.
Yeah.
And it's about mismatches. When you get to that level, you've got to be able to play night in and night out. And, and you've got to have mismatches and execution, because the other teams you play are just as good athletically as you are. You might have 1 or 2 players better than them, but still, when you line up front, it's probably equal most of the time.
I go back to that Whitwell team that won 4 years ago, and you saw it coming when they were freshmen, when they were sophomores, juniors, and then finally when they were seniors. There was a group at 1A of about 8 real solid football players in one class, Phil. In 1A, that's all you need is one class like that can put you over the top. That's not so true at 6A and 5A.
No, you got to have a complete top to bottom, you got to have a good bunch up front on both sides of the football. You got to have skilled people. You've got to have a knowledgeable quarterback. You can't have any weak links. You've got to be solid all the way through. 6 or 7 good football players are not going to get you by. You got to have 11 on both sides.
All right, Baylor and McCallie in the Division II 3A both draw byes as they are the 1 and 2 seeds, which puts them on the opposite side of the bracket, Phil. You could see a Baylor versus McCallie state championship.
Well, that would be something to see.
That would be.
Because it was a classic the last time they played. It'd be nice to see again.
And then in Division II 2A, Chattanooga Central at Davison, or Chattanooga Christian at Davison Academy. Silverdale at Franklin Rollard Academy, 9-1. But for our local interest, Good Pasture, 3-7, comes to 10-0 Boyd Buchanan. And Phil, again, I've said 2 public schools, 2 private schools, and I really feel strong that we're going to get at least 3, maybe 4 championships out of the Chattanooga area. That Boyd Buchanan is the other private school, 10-0.
Yeah, and that would be classic because, a lot of times we don't have that. Even when you go to Nashville or Cookville or wherever, we're lucky to have one, but, there's an opportunity to have several.
Yes.
So that would be nice. And Boyd Buchanan's come a long way in just a short time.
Yes. Of course, it's nice to have a head coach with about 12 championship trophies over there on his wall from Alcoa.
Yeah, because he's definitely going to draw the kids. They're going to want to come play for it, that's for sure, because everybody wants to be on a winning football program now. Times have really changed, and kids want to win. There's no doubt about it.
Well, Phil, we didn't leave much time for Alabama, but we want to hit it, and I'll throw it your way. Week 9 ended up most of the regions. Week 10's got some good matchups. I'm going to one Thursday night in Fife and Sylvania, but why don't you hit Alabama there for a minute?
Let's go through a few of the scores. Bob Jones beat Albertville 51-6. Athens got a 2-point conversion and touchdown with no time left on the clock to beat Fort Payne 29-28. These two could end up meeting each other in the playoffs. We'll find out. Gaston City won over Clear 46-0. Arab beat Hazel Green. Boaz was a winner over Douglas. They qualified for the playoffs by beating Douglas 45-21. Gunnersville forced a 3-way tie with Scottsboro and Arab. So we're going to find out this week on tiebreakers who's going to be 1, 2, and 3 in their region. They beat Sardis 55-0. Mars Hill come from behind. That one time was the number 1 ranked team in Class 3. They lost to Lauderdale County, but then they scored a 2-point conversion late in the game to knock off Scottsboro 36-35. So Southside lost to Moody 34-21. That forced a 3-way tie in that region. Moody leads and Southside are all tied. North Jackson qualified for the playoffs. They started out 0-5, Randy. They beat DR 85-14, got to 4-5 on the season and jumped in everything. I think Santa Claus comes seeing them early.
Yeah.
Everything fell into place. They've become the number 3 seed out of their region, and this was a team that we're looking up at the playoffs when they were 0-5. And boy, what a great end of the year for the Chiefs.
Yeah, absolutely. And, several of the Chiefs follow me on River City Media, moms, dads, and they've been posting all week. They are ecstatic to be in the playoffs.
Oh, yes. I mean, that team, finally, and I'm so glad for Coach Hollis because he's always kept a positive frame of mind, and finally it sticks. And they won 4 in a row, and they got a chance to beat Pisgah next week to finish 5-5. That would be a monumental win for that program. But, hats off to North Jackson. They continued the course, and it's worked out well for them.
Got their hands full this week.
Do what?
They got their hands full with Pisgah this week.
Oh, definitely so. But, they've got a chance. So they're playing some good football. It's not a bad football team at all. When you figure 4A playing against 2A, it's probably going to be a lot more even than you think.
Yeah.
Geraldine beat Glen Co, of course, 54-7. They're the 2 seed out of their region. Plainview won over Ohatchee 34-18. Of course, Sylvania continues to roll as they're the number 1 seed out of their regions. They beat Westbrook 30-7, and they'll host in the first round of the playoffs. 5 wins again, 46-0 over Ider. Collinsville beat North Sand Mountain. This was a surprise of the score. Collinsville 56 and North Sand 7. So Collinsville gets the 3 seed out of that region. North Sand Mountain drops to the 4 seed. They'll have to go to Locust Fork in the first round of the playoffs. Whitesburg Christian picked up a win. They beat Sandrock 38-22 to end their season. Pisgah was a winner over Section 50-20. It was Baylor winning over Galesville 53-14. They're number 2 seed out of their region. They'll host at Raglan in the first round of the playoffs. Of course, Coosa qualified for the playoffs. They beat Woodville 51-0. And Spring Garden finished second in their regions. They beat Raglan 42-27.
Phil, that Collinsville team, is it one of those that we've talked about so many teams that just kind of got going in the right direction? Is Collinsville just kind of late in the year going in the wrong direction?
They're a real good football team, but, they had to run into Pisgah in 5. And things just didn't go well for them at all in the Pisgah game because, you know how good 5 is.
Yeah.
And I listened to the first part of the Pisgah game, and yardage-wise, they were back and forth with Pisgah, but Collinsville couldn't finish drives. And you looked up at the scoreboard, it's about midway through the second quarter, and it seemed like it was an even game, but Pisgah was up like 24-6, and then it kind of snowballed on them. So this is a lot better football team than you think. I felt like we were going to find out how good they were in the last 2 games, that being North Sand Mountain and Valley Head, because that was the true test. The football team where they passed test number 1. They beat North Sand 56-7 to prove to me they're a lot better football team than we think. They're maybe not a great football team up front, but they're outside. And me and John Kirby talked about this. They're outside folks. There's 7 around the outside, and their skill people are as good as anybody's. So it's a very dangerous football team, an explosive football team.
I saw that North Sand score, and I was like, Collinsville may be better than I thought they were.
Yeah, I figured they were. And we'll find out a lot more because they're going to have to play a physical game this week against Valley Head. And it's going to be a good test for Collinsville going into the playoffs because they really need to find out how good they are because, naturally the kids are going to think this when you talk to them and you mention 5 and Pisgah. That's not indicative of how good this team is, but that's kind of what they're measured by because they have beat the tar out of everybody else they've played.
Right.
So, this team is better than they played in those 2 games. It's just that, they got run over early and things just didn't go well for them.
Okay. That makes a little sense.
Yeah.
Also wanted to ask you about Coosa making the playoffs. Who will they open with? And they'll open with a 1 seed, correct?
No, they'll finish the 3rd seed, and they'll go to Spring Garden, who finished 2nd in that cross region. Raglan, Spring Garden beat Raglan for the 2nd seed spot, 42-27. So Coosa goes to Spring Garden, and Raglan comes to Valley Head.
Okay, makes sense.
Yeah. So we'll just go over the quick, games this week. There's traditional rivals, but this is just kind of the finish off the year. Of course, the highlight game naturally is going to be the Pisgah and the Sylvania and Fife game that'll be played on Thursday night. Of course, that's the game everybody points to naturally on the mountain as they changed it to a Thursday night game. That's one of those you want to win it and you want to survive, but you don't really want to get anybody hurt. So I think you're going to see both teams play kind of play to the best, but not really throw everything they've got at each other because it's an important win as far as rivalry goes, but you don't want to do anything to ruin your season, get anybody hurt, or do something crazy. If you can line up and beat the other team, that's what you want to do.
Right, and these are 2 teams that have huge playoff expectations, and I look forward to seeing the game. I'm gonna watch it from the sideline, Phil, and I also expect a heavy hitting football game.
Oh yeah, definitely will. It'll be a matter of wheels at both teams. Like when Fife played Pisgah, it was a shootout because Pisgah is going to score some points. They're going to throw the ball all over the field, and they're going to create mismatches. Sylvania's going to be much more balanced, but they're also going to try to run the football, and I think that's key. If Sylvania's going to win this football game, they've got to depend on that offensive line You know Fife's going to be good up front. They're going to run the ball with Anderson. So it'll be interesting who has the better night, Anderson or Parham. It's going to be
that may be the ball game
to see, because that's going to be the difference in the ball game is how well them two play.
I think that's the exact point I was going to make. And both of them are just phenomenal backs.
Yeah, definitely so. And of course, that the key part is up front. You know, if they've got running lanes, that's going to be the key. Sylvania's going to be able to throw the ball a little bit better, but you know, naturally, Fife, it don't matter who they play, they're going to be tough to stop. So, you know, and I think key factors is going to be in this game is going to be turnovers. Definitely, they are going to be. You turn the football over, you're going to be in trouble.
Yeah, absolutely.
In this football game, you can't afford mistakes.
Well, and tomorrow night you can turn into River City Media and hear Coach Tyler Van's thoughts on the games, recap of their win down at Westbrook Christian. Also this week, Phil, on Wednesday night, Sean Cooley, offensive coordinator for Hickson High School, will be here for a podcast to talk a little bit about the playoffs too.
Yeah, it's that time. Everybody gets excited and you get a fresh start. You start out 0-0. It don't matter what's happened in the past. It's 0-0, and you got to win the next one. You don't have to be the better team. You just got to win the next game.
Yeah.
And that's what it's coming down to. Well, let's go through who plays this week right quick. I see Geraldine plays at Hatton. Talladega County Central plays at Galesville. Of course, we talked about Sylvania and Fife. Collinsville plays at Valley. That's going to be a good test for both teams going to the playoffs. Fort Payne goes to Cherokee County. Cherokee County, the number 1 ranked team in Class 4A, because Fort Payne is at 5-4 right now and is playing in Class 6A. This should be a good matchup. Of course, North Jackson at Pisgah. Douglas plays at North Sand Mountain. Albertville plays against Gunnersville. Coosa plays Victory Christian. Donahoe's at Cedar Bluff. Sandrock plays Appalachian. Sardis and Hoax Bluff. This will be a good matchup. Woodville takes on Asbury. Woodville still with a chance at the playoffs. They're mathematically still alive. Comes down that they're tied for third or tied for fourth in the region with 2 other teams, and tiebreakers will come down to decide this. But Woodville, if they win, it'll be the 6th win of the year, and that will break the all-time school record. If they finish 6 and 4, if they beat Asbury, they've got a good chance at that. Southside plays at Etowah. Lee plays at Boaz, and of course Scottsboro hosts Decatur to end up the regular season.
But there's a game I'd like to be at other than Plainview and Sylvania and Fife. It might be that Scottsboro-Decatur game. That could be a sneaky good football game, Phil.
Yeah, probably so. I think Scottsboro at home with their running game is key. Decatur, they're okay. They're athletically, they're going to be good, but they haven't kind of put things together yet. I know they struggled against Buckhorn last week and played good in the second half. They really struggled in the first half. So it's a team that lacks consistency. I think it's the big thing with Decatur. They're athletic, but they're just not very consistent. Scottsboro is a good, consistent football team, up and down. Of course, that Mars Hill game, they played against a very good 3A football program. That was a dynamite football game over at Scottsboro last week. So, Scottsboro's playing some good football going in the playoffs.
Yeah, Mars Hill, I think, was number 1 in the state coming into that game.
Well, they were till they lost to Lauderdale County the week before. They had dropped down.
Okay.
Lauderdale County beat them. Lauderdale County, to show you where it was, Lauderdale County was 8-0, beat Mars Hill, who was the number 1 team in Class 3A, and Lauderdale County wasn't even ranked. So now Lauderdale County is ranked 7th, so they're moving up the 3A ladder, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, of course, we knew they were a good football team, but all of a sudden, they're on the map, and they're one of those teams you better point to come 3A playoff time.
Who else would you think could be a sneaky good football game that Friday night?
The Collinsville Valley Head could be a good one. I think if Valley Head can cut down on big plays against Collinsville, that's what they're going to have to guard against, and make it a short football game. That could be a good one because it's going to be a matter of who gets to play their will in that game, because there's 2 contrasting styles of football, but it has the potential to be a great game. And another one I think it might be better than we think might be that Pisgah North Jackson game.
Yeah, that is 3A versus 2A. and in a hot 4A team.
Yeah. Because North Jackson's from now 5 weeks ago, no, it would have not been good at all. But this North Jackson team is playing with momentum. They're playing with purpose. Kids are excited. So that's going to make this game a lot better football game. Because I think earlier if Pisgah would have hit them quick about 5 weeks ago, it would have been over with in a hurry. But now I think North Jackson's good enough to respond, and their kids are all on the same page now. So that's going to make this be a good game.
Absolutely. Well, Phil, I'm going to run a little commercial. Our friend Brian Smith was talking about difference in Eastridge Hickson. Hickson has a kicker, and of course we know who Eastridge didn't. Field position was a big help. And talking about General Dick McNeelan's maximum, always true. Always, what is the maximum? Kicking is the makes the breaks and press the brakes when you get them. So
yeah. Oh, yes, that definitely happens in a lot of games, especially when you got two teams that are very competitive, and not just field goals. Punting can be a big factor in these type of games also. They can change field position, but ultimately, if you knock down your field goals, it gives you an opportunity to win a football game. Even missing one field goal during a game can be very costly.
Well, you could thank Charles Campbell and the Ricochet up in Lexington for the Vols' success Saturday, because I didn't think that one went in, buddy, for a minute.
Yeah. He's had a good, consistent year, though. He has been good.
I'm going to run a little commercial to get us out of here and get Coach Barger online. Just stay with us, Phil, and I'll bring us back in about, let's say 90 seconds.
Okay. Hello.
What's going on, Coach?
Not a whole lot.
All right. Well, we're running a little commercial right now. Phil, Coach is with us.
Okay.
Coach, you might be the most talked about team on this show all year, going from 0-5 to 4-6. So we definitely going to have some questions for you.
All right.
All right. I'm going to come out of this commercial and we're ready to go. I'll ask him one or two short questions, Phil, and I want you to take over there and kind of ask him questions from there.
Okay.
All right, everybody. Thank you for sitting through my baseball card commercial. Yeah, I made one of just my favorite sports cards. But Coach Chad Barger from Eastridge Pioneers online now. Coach, I'm going to ask you one question, then I'm going to turn it over to Phil a little bit. And I want to ask you a question about Friday night. And I don't want to ask you a question about the game, but I want to ask you a question about Coach Rivers at Hickson. I saw a picture of you two afterwards. And you talk about a giant of a man. You and Coach Rivers, completely different size, but very common coach, very respected coach. And I think you two have a good common respect for each other.
Yeah, we do. I mean, Nick does a great job, man. He's also just down to earth, a really, really good person too. I'm proud of the things he's doing at Hicks, and I can't say enough good things about Nick and his program and what they're doing. Of course, we're kind of down. I felt like we won everywhere but the scoreboard. You can't turn the football over like we did Friday night. We were -3 turnover ratio, and we were 2 of 5 in the red zone. You can't win football games that way. But we dominated the total yardage. I think our total yardage was somewhere in the neighborhood. When I did the statistics, it was like we had 424 yards total offense. They had 203. We just couldn't put the ball in the end zone.
That's a large part of it. And also, I think if Hickson, and we had one of the parents on earlier, and I'm huge friends with the Smith family too, and Hickson, Isaac's a big weapon for them to flip the field. You outgained them, but several times from what I saw in the film, he got off pretty good kicks against you, and that's a big weapon for Hickson. Nobody thinks about.
Yeah, I mean, especially in high school football, you got a kid that can consistently put the ball in the end zone on kickoff. I mean, because if you don't, like teams like us, we struggle. Our kicker's young and he's getting a lot better. So we ended up, putting it on the ground quite a bit. Just kind of squib kicking because we knew they've returned several kicks for touchdowns this season, and we don't give them the opportunity to do that. But now they're starting drives at 35, 36, even the 40-yard line. That extra 20 yards adds to your percentages and opportunities to score. So, that's a huge weapon, being able to put the ball in the end zone from the kickoff.
Hey, Phil, before I turn you over to Coach Barger, I also got a little announcement. It's kind of a little bit of a test run. We're figuring everything out. But at some point next year, Phil, I'm going to have a weekly call show with Coach Barger, and we're going to have about once a week, like we do with Coach Van, going to have Coach Barger on the air. Don't know what night yet, but that'll be our third show, with this one with you, and then Coach Van, and then Coach Barger will step in, and I might even switch Hickson and East Ridge in the same night. That would be fun, Coach Barger. I think if we had two region teams back to back. But I'm really looking forward to that. And Coach Barger is such a good friend. I thought now would be the time we announce it, Phil.
Oh, that'd be great. That'd be outstanding. Any coaches that can promote their football team, that's great. I love that part of it, because these kids deserve to be put on a pedestal, because a lot of them, this is the best part, the best moments in their life. And, because life changes when they finish playing high school sports, because a lot of them don't get to go on to another level. They have to choose to do other things, but this is a great time for them to be put on a pedestal, and you want to rise them and lift them up there as much as you can.
Absolutely.
Well, Phil, go ahead if you've got Coach Barger some questions about his season.
Yeah, I was really interested, Coach. The early part of the year, it was a struggle. Of course, everybody knows your schedule was tough. But how was your approach when things weren't going real well? How was you able to keep these kids focused?
I think the big thing was we didn't really change how we approached it. At the end of the day, we were our own worst enemy, even early in the season. Like I said, after the first two games of the season, we had 9
I want you to keep this thing going. It'd be nice to see you get through that second round and see what happens, because you just never know on any given Friday night.
You're exactly right. Yes, sir.
Well, somewhere along the way we lost some feed, and I think I got us back on now. But I just sorry, I didn't mean to jump off. Coach, I'm going to go back to week 2, and after I was privileged enough to go down and meet several of your kids, and there was a feeling that they were not going to quit or resign themselves. And I just had a feeling that something good was going to happen. Did you have player leadership during those 5 weeks to keep everybody kind of united?
Well, I mean, we do, man. We have 13 seniors, and you can't brag on them enough. Like if you start looking around, I mean, we got some of our vocal leaders. We have an emotional leader in Javante Poole, our linebacker number 7. Kid's played, he's been a starter on defense for 3 years. Was the best preps linebacker last year. I would dare say that he may be one of the better linebackers in the area, if he's not the best linebacker in Chattanooga in public schools. But he's got 109 tackles this year already. Kid's just a true vocal leader. Plays with passion, plays hard, very physical football. Our quarterback, Jermaine Blackstock, is also a 3-year starter. We moved him to quarterback last year. He's really a running back playing quarterback, but with a linebacker mentality.
Yeah,
so,
he does.
Sometimes we got to teach him how to damn slide, because he don't want to slide. So, he wants to lower that shoulder and try to run people over and play that kind of football game. And, I'm over there wincing sometimes because he plays strong safety too. To be honest with you, if he wasn't playing quarterback, he'd probably play linebacker. So, but those two guys are really, really good, hardcore leaders. Then, we've got guys that lead by example too. Number 2 for us, Markel Sales. Just the story of that kid, man. He's had 2 knee surgeries and a shoulder surgery in his high school career. And on Friday night, he rolled up, 141 yards rushing on 22 carries against Hickson. Was just a daggum workhorse. And we always knew once he's healthy and he's playing with a purpose, man, that dude's as good a running back as there are in the area. But, just so many setbacks, and he's had such a great attitude through all of his rehabs and things that he's done, and he's never really, it's awful to say, but he's never really had a true healthy football season. Yeah. Just to see that kid in a true healthy football season would have been amazing to me. We've got, Justin Ellis, who played fullback linebacker for us. This is another kid who started for 3 years. He had to be a serviceable guard for the last 2 years, or last year as a junior, because we didn't have much on the offensive line, and I told Justin, I was like, we got another guy playing fullback. What do you think about playing guard? Now you're playing both ways. So he jumped in and did that job pretty well. We were fortunate enough to have enough linemen this year. Put him at fullback. I'm glad I did, because he runs pretty angry with the football in his hands. But those guys, and of course we've got 2 of the better receivers in the area with Kadeon Harris. He's a senior, and then junior Hassani Jackson. Those 2 dudes just make plays right and left. With especially on the edges there at the receiving end. So we've got lots of leadership. And our offensive line's anchored by Caden McCrary, who's a 4-year starter on the offensive line, and he's the guy that I ended up moving him. We had to shuffle the offensive line around a little bit. I finally got him. We got a new center, and the tackle that's beside him is pretty new to the offense too. So I put him at guard, so you can tell both of them, kind of get them, make sure they understood blocking schemes and pass protections. So, he's kind of the coach on the field with the offensive line. So, we've got some guys that are very experienced that, we're going to miss next year when they graduate.
Coach, I was talking to my play-by-play guy, a guy you probably know, might be your brother, but we won't talk about that now. But him and I were discussing East Ridge today, and he made a statement that was, to me, really kind of true, Coach. When you play clean, I don't know that anybody in 4A can run you out of the park. I think you match up with anybody. Is that a fair assessment when you take care of the football and, just clean with the football, that you feel like you're capable of beating anybody?
I think so. I mean, we're athletic on the edges. We've got some good runners. That's the big thing. The things that we don't have, we don't have a lot of size. So, but I mean, I'm going to tell you, defensively, we've improved dramatically, especially with runs in the box. There for a while early in the season, we didn't defend the run very well, and we kind of got that fixed. And we're defending the run pretty well here in the second half of the season. I think a lot of it has to do with some guys maturing, and we have a new scheme, and I think just understanding our scheme and our fits. But at the end of the day, I mean, our guys are just, I guess they got tired of losing. I mean, that's kind of the way you look at it. And sometimes you have to make that decision. Now, I'm not going to do this anymore, and I'm going to find a way to fix it. And that's what a lot of them have done. They've really stepped up just to fix the problem.
Coach, going up to Upperman, and they are 10-0, and did you ever match up with Coach Kane when he was at Sequatchie County? Have you coached against him before?
I haven't, but I mean, it's a funny story because when I first came back to Sequatchie, was in the middle of a season when I left Georgia, and then I had did a little stint out at Grundy. Then Tommy Lane called me in the middle of September of, I guess it was 2017, maybe.
Yeah.
And I took the history job, but it was a Bible teaching class, Bible class, and a history class. And I took that job because they put me way closer to home, and instead of driving up that mountain every day. And I talked to Coach Kane, and we had actually made the decision that I would join his staff at the end of that season. And then he ended up going to Upperman, and Coach Wattenbarger was hired in. And I was an assistant there for a year for Coach Watt. But he and I talked a little bit. But Adam does a great job, man. He's a heck of a defensive coach, and he's a heck of a football coach and a good guy. And his kids are going to be super prepared. They're going to play with great technique. They're going to play with great leverage, and they're going to understand the game. And that's going to be the difficulty. And what he's got it up, but man, he's got a lot of those big kids that figure that out too. And his quarterback's 6'4".
Yeah.
He's got I think one of his defensive tackles is 6'3", 290.
Yeah.
So I mean, they got some big kids up front. So that box, that tackle to tackle is going to be pretty tough. But if we can get those big guys moving sideline to sideline a little bit, maybe, and getting our athletes out in space a little bit and have them chase us around a little bit, maybe that'll open up something in the middle.
Well, Coach Barger, my next question was, if styles make football games, this is the ultimate style matchup with Upperman and you, with what you want to do on the football field.
Oh, it is. I mean, I'll be honest with you. He's an old wing tee / shotgun wing type guy too. Yeah. They're going to run the counter. They're going to run the power. I mean, he's going to be a downhill run football team, gap team. And defensively, they're going to get after you. They'll be in the 3-man sum, and they'll jump into a 4-man front. And it's not necessarily mirror image, but we do a lot of stuff that's very similar. And and our guys are going to go over there and get after them. And I think that what we've got is we're a little bit faster foot than they are. And, I mean, we're definitely not as big as they are, but we've definitely got the speed advantage, I think. And, and our kids are hungry to do more than just make the playoffs. I mean, a lot of people say, well, we just want to make the playoffs. Well, our guys would like to be playing next week. So,
absolutely.
We're going to go up there and slug it out and see what happens.
Coach, I want to ask one question. I'm going to throw it back to Phil and let him follow up maybe a little bit here, and then we'll wrap it up. But I want to ask you a question about your quarterback. I met the young man after the game. He's such a competitor, and he was almost blaming himself for the Sequatchie loss, and has his experience the last 2 years with growth at quarterback. it's been, what's the right word? Almost a cram session. Like, hey, play quarterback, and he's had to learn some of this stuff on the fly.
Right. And it's always a learning experience. I mean, we talked about it. I mean, whether you miss a read or you do this or you do that, and Jay's just a competitor, man. He's a good kid. He's a down to earth kid. He understands. And we sit down and have just straight conversation. I mean, we talk to each other. I talk to him, and we sit down and we look at film. And I peeked on the huddle. I think he spent about 3.5, 4 hours on film this week. So
wow.
He's already been on film. I'm not going to confirm or deny that he might have been on it in math class yesterday. But I mean, I ain't going to say nothing. But I think he may have been peeking at huddle during math class. But he's really been studying here lately, trying to figure things out. And I mean, that's the maturity of the kid.
Yeah.
I mean, they a lot of our kids also have jobs and they go to work after practice. And it's pretty interesting to watch because we'll talk to him. I'll be like, "Hey Jay, you got to work today?" He said, "Yes, sir. I'm going in after practice." So they're working part-time jobs too, and then he's still finding time to watch film and everything else. I mean, it's pretty crazy. But you gotta hand it to them, man. They tried. Then that's key. But at the end of the day, I mean, he's at the next level. He's a defensive player, and he knows that. I know that. Everybody knows that.
Yeah.
And like I told him, I said, in a perfect world, you'd be a tailback. And but we used him that way a lot. I mean, he carries football. He didn't carry it as much Friday night, but he had some big runs for us against Kingston Friday night, especially for some first downs and things like that when we needed them. And he moved the chains, and he's made some good decisions. He actually had he threw for 196 Friday night. So I mean, he threw the ball pretty well, for the most part. And it is what it is. I said we just got to do a better job protecting him sometimes because with a guy who's not super experienced at quarterback. I mean, he's played 2 years quarterback, but if they're not super experienced at quarterback, his internal clock doesn't work that well.
Yeah, and
sometimes they'll hold on to the football a little bit long, but at the end of the day, I mean, that's not really his fault. That's just him not being experienced enough and comfortable. And that's something that we've got to teach him do a better job teaching him how to throw on time. And that's just the nature of the beast, and it comes with experience. And that's one of those things that he's done a heck of a job for us. I can't say enough good things about the kid, man. He's a leader. He's a natural leader. He works hard. He works hard in the off season. He's super, super strong in the weight room. If any kids want to see kind of how to do it in the off season and do it correctly, they watch him and his cousin Javante pull them when they go in that weight room. And we've got 3 or 4. Those two, and then Justin Ellis, man, they're there every time the doors open, and they love the weight room, and it really shows.
Phil, you got any questions to follow up with Coach Barger about Friday night? And we'll get him out of here.
I wanted to comment on something and then, feel like, what I think might be the key to the football game. Coach, you're going to climb on that bus and you're going to take that long ride up to Buffalo. And I've been through this when I played in the playoffs when we had a long bus trip. This is great for the kids, I think, because they get to spend some time kind of sort of outside of football when they get to communicate a little bit and talk together and build kind of relationships. And I think it brings the team closer together. That's why I think sometimes when you take a long road trip, it's good because the kids seems like they get on the same page, so to speak. I think that's good for a football team like you. You just kind of walk off that bus and say, hey, it's us against the world. It's us against the world. Let's see what happens.
Exactly. I mean, that's the thing. And we're going to break that ride up a little bit. I think we're going to stop. We're actually, we're going to leave school a little early, and we're going to ride up to Fall Creek Falls and use one of those big open fields that's over by their basketball court, down in the village there. I think we're going to use it as the walk-through area, do our team walk-through, just kind of let them stretch their legs, and then we're going to ride into Coalfield and have our pregame meal. So we're breaking that 2 hours and whatever, bus ride it's going to be. We're going to break that 2.5 hour bus ride up. So we're not on that bus the whole time, but, and let them stretch their legs a couple times, see some scenery, just kind of fellowship a little bit with each other and go from there. and I think that'll help them. Because sometimes you can get kind of car lag. They talk about jet lag all the time. I think you can get car lag too. So we're going to try to break that monotony up a little bit.
And Coach, after you leave Cookville, there's nothing. So that's all I'm saying. Go ahead, Phil.
There's nothing until you get to Baxter, right?
Yeah.
We go up to Upperman. I mean, the high school's kind of off to itself. So, once that's kind of the plan. Now, there is a Love's, right? A little Love's gas station and McDonald's that's in it. But
that's about it.
That's about it.
Yeah. Go ahead, Phil.
Yeah, well, and of course, and this is a good time, because, what it's all about in high school is building memories, and this is something they'll always remember going into that game. But, Coach, kind of me and Randy kind of talked on this when we were talking about the games going on around Chattanooga. I think it's important for your football team naturally, and you're going to say this, is play clean, can't have turnovers, can't have key penalties. That's going to be the key to this football game. But I think if East Ridge can get ahead and make Upperman play catch-up, that's going to be a huge advantage for the Pioneers.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, that's the big thing. If we can start fast, we sometimes we decide to start kind of slow. If we can start fast and get after them early, get a score or two early, and make them play catch up, make them kind of get out of their comfort zone. Because, they like to ground and pound, and they like to, move the chains, and they like to play in front of the chains. So that way he can take his shots and things like that. So, if you'll watch them on film, they like to ground and pound early, and then they'll take shots and they get out midfield, or if they get second and one or second and super short and things like that. So if we can take them out of their comfort zone and try to make them a little bit uncomfortable, maybe we can, there's some things that we can do once that happens.
Phil, you got anything else?
That's about it. I just wanted, kind of sort of what he thought about, what the keys to the game were. Of course, naturally, it's turnovers and penalties. But it's going to be a fun Friday night. I'm sure the kids are excited and looking forward to it. I know you are.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's going to be an interesting environment. It's always a crazy environment up there. They have them fans that are very similar. We talked about it before. They're very similar to going to, one of the Valley schools, man. It's a different environment. Those people are up on the fence, and their stands are full. They're yelling and screaming and making noise. And, it's a pretty good environment for a high school football game.
And Coach has promised that when he wins Friday night, Phil, he'll come back and don't know what night we'll do it on, but next week he's going to kind of ride with us throughout the pro playoffs and kind of open his wings up and start a little bit of maybe Coach Chad Barger so early and get through Friday night, and we'll get that schedule, Coach. And I'm so proud of your kids, and I love your kids, and they have every time I've been over there, they yes sir, no sir me, and they welcome me in, and you got a great bunch of young men over there, Coach Barger.
Well, there's a lot of good people in East Ridge, and that's what people need to realize. There's a lot of good going on in East Ridge High School, a lot of good going on with the Pioneers of East Ridge in football, and there's a lot of good going on in the East Ridge community. So, that's the big thing we want to tell people all the time. There's a lot of good things happening our way. So, come on down and check out those Pioneers.
Look forward to it, and look forward to talking to you next week, Coach Barger.
Yes, sir.
I appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Phil, Coach Barger, I've enjoyed it. For Phil Ayers, for Coach Chad Barger, this is Beyond the Booth, your weekly high school football magazine. And